are listening to the Chomp Cast, the official podcast of Sword Chomp. And remember, you can always go to swordchomp.com where you can access the many places our podcast is available for download. But if you're listening to the show right now, that means you found us. So welcome to the madness that is the Chomp Cast. We have a celestial show today as we get to the heart of death in video games. Yes, you heard me right. The topic of the show is interesting ways that video games use death or dying or losing lives, perishing, things like that, whatever you want to call it, as a video game mechanic. So that should be a lot of fun. And with the rise of games like Meat Boy and Celeste and Cuphead, there's never been a better time to talk about death. We take a spiritual journey of self-discovery with the critically acclaimed platforming game Celeste that we've all been playing. Yes, Josh has once again also left me flabbergasted with some of his comments on Celeste in comparison to Cuphead, but I will just tease that for now. The BioBreak article this week involves a pretty interesting story about hybrid embryos. We have two fun polls that we ran on the Sword Chomp Instagram, and then we had the results for those, including the results for the poor, underappreciated Squall Leonhardt. Which, by the way, speaking of later in the show, we have a special appearance. Some of the hosts of the show don't even know about this. We have a special appearance from a popular character from the Final Fantasy series. So you don't want to miss that. And of course, the community of Sword Chomp at Sword Chomp on Instagram weighs in on the next Pokemon franchise. Basically, I went to the at Sword Chomp Instagram page and we wanted to get thoughts from our community about what they want from the next big entry in the Pokemon series. There was a leak this week that turned out to be fake, but it got us thinking. So we're going to sound off with our community at the end of the show. We have a little bit of DICE Awards winners. There's so much good stuff to talk about on this week's Chompcast. But if death is the topic of the show, then I had to do some death-themed intros for the show. So my, alternate reality, you guys have died somehow. Joining us from Texas, the one and only, the Filipino Johnny Depp, Fish is here, and according to this information I have, he passed away from this world in a tragic accident. An accident in which his life-size vibrating Hugh Jackman body pillow caught fire. Luckily, nobody else was home. His family was out of town when the incident occurred. And the police think that it was either the charger that sparked it, the fire from an outlet, or some sort of friction-related situation. Either way, we're glad Fish is here. How's it going, Fish?
Stop into a Slim Jim.
What in God's
Only
name
his
is
friends
that?
call him Jim.
I'm sorry. Shane put me up to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was good.
I didn't see it coming, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what happened to that Hugh Jackman pillow. I mean, I don't know why I would have a vibrating pillow. That just seems uncomfortable for my head, but
Good night.
You've had a vibrating body pillow before? You just expand your horizons, Fish. In this alternate reality, you were expanding your horizons. And I was proud of you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that could be something sexual. I mean,
Well, it doesn't have to be.
does it have to be Hugh Jackman that I die by?
I just thought that was the weirder choice. I don't know. When I was laying around last night thinking of it, Hugh Jackman seems like the stranger choice. But if you could have any strong male celebrity body pillow, what would you pick?
Oh, I'd have to have someone just really good looking, just smooth, nice hair, perhaps a brunette of some sort.
Okay, continue.
Head. Yeah, a little crazy.
Okay. Are you give me a name?
A little too serious. I would say Tom Cruise.
Oh, goddamn, I knew it.
You'd expect that pillow to be vibrating.
Oh, man. And it also has a little button where it spouts off Scientology information if you press it enough. So, you and your Tom Cruise thing. I was trying to set you up there for something different, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Sadly, in that alternate reality, you didn't make it, but I'm glad in this reality you are alive, Fish, and you are here. So, thank you for being here.
Yeah. Glad I got out of that reality.
I did want to say that, I imagine that on your grave, someone had spray painted over on your gravestone, here lies Anthony Fisher, loving husband, and they spray painted through loving husband but scumbag on there. So I'm thinking that was probably your wife, and she probably found out about that whole Vegas trip. So
maybe, yeah. That would definitely happen in an alternate universe, yeah.
It would. But you know what? This is the only universe that matters today. So we are glad you're here, and you played some Celeste, among other things. Maybe I'll give you a Monster Hunter minute, too, because I know you're still playing that damn game. I don't know what's wrong with you.
I love that game. 80 hours into it now.
Speaking of 80, this is our 80th episode, which is pretty cool. I didn't think I was going to naturally come up in any sort of segue, and yet it did. That's pretty amazing.
Hey.
So, congratulations, guys. Up next, of course, from Japan, we call him the Professor. Mr. Shay Layton is here, and according to these police files in this alternate reality, his body was found at the bottom of a local koi pond after he mistakenly hooked up with the daughter of a Yakuza boss. I guess when he met up with her on Tinder, she had left out the whole daughter of a Yakuza boss thing. And that was the end of our dear friend, Shay Layton. Shay Layton's here. How you doing, Shay?
Blah, 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 blah.
Is that you breathing from the bottom of the koi pond?
That's exactly what that is. Good job.
Wow. I like those special effects. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I spent a lot of money on that. It's all good. No, I spent all week trying to find a sound guy to provide me with those expert audio files. So it was a very busy week for me.
Quality blubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to be honest with you, I had, I'm going to say honestly, 10 times there. I tried to avoid the Tinder joke, but then I was trying to find a way to naturally get you set up with, how would you have found yourself a Yakuza daughter? And then all of a sudden Tinder came back in the picture. So just can't escape it. It's the infinite circle.
No, you love it so much. And you know what? It is what it is. It's fine. I'm done fighting it. I mean, like,
it's true. Don't fight
use
it.
Tinder, but
just
you know
let
what?
it go.
I'm just gonna let it happen at this point.
Let it happen. It feels better if you do.
I feel
and
something.
Lastly, of course, you have to feel something. Otherwise, you just end up like Fish, and that's not where we want to end up.
Speaking of.
Actually, no. Technically, we've already been introduced, but that would have been a nice segue back to Fish. No. And lastly, Joshua Fowler is here, of course, in a stunning turn of events. Sensing his own doom, he actually took death unawares, snatched the Grim Reaper's scythe, and chopped the Reaper's grim dick right off, but not before shoving the handle right up the Reaper's ass and flipping him 2 solid middle fingers. How you doing,
How
Josh?
many hands does he have? If he's shoving a fucking handle in the Grim Reaper's ass while flipping him off with both of his hands?
Well,
how many hands does he actually have then?
I mean, I'm sure you could pull it off, Josh. I mean, sure, Josh can do amazing things, Shay.
Huh.
Well, you just said he chopped it off, so he's not pulling it off if he's chopping it off.
Well, it's sequential. He chops it off, then shoves it up the ass. Then, as death is there writhing around in pain, he flips him the 2 middle fingers. It's a succession.
Shortly thereafter, I tripped on my way home afterwards. Died anyway. It was...
You tripped and
just tripped
the
and
dick
fell.
Went down your throat and you choked on it until you died?
No. Come on, Shay. Where did this dick come from? Come on.
The one he chopped off.
Dick.
Oh, so he's carrying the Grim Reaper's dick around in this?
That's the sort of thing you take with
you. It's laying erect on the floor,
Like-
upright like a flagpole, and he tripped and his mouth was open, and it was perfect circumference for the Grim Reaper's wiener, and he choked on it.
you had a good idea going there, Shay, but you went the wrong direction. You should, like Josh was, I think, like the idea of him like carrying the dick around on like a necklace or something as some sort of like reward, seems fitting.
Like a talisman, like look what I got.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
holding the penis. Okay, well, you know,
Have you ever
I don't
have
dare project your fantasies into the podcast, so I was trying to avoid that.
Have you ever seen Your Highness where they chop off the Minotaur's dick and then they wear it
Nope.
around on a necklace?
Nope, I tend to not watch bad movies.
It wasn't a very good movie, but it was during that whole phase with a lot of like James Franco. It was like a stoner medieval fantasy movie. Because you never heard of Your Highness? It was weird, but yeah, they chop off.
I know what it is. I just never watched it.
Okay. I think it had Natalie Portman in it too. Weirdly enough, which was probably a shining part of that movie. Anyways, yeah, they wear the Minotaur's dick around their neck. But yes, death could not take him. I of course am Morgan Barnes here from Montana, and we are talking death, which is kind of an uncomfortable thing I think to talk about. But the sort of nuts and bolts of how we're talking about death today, I think is pretty interesting and unique to what I think you would mostly hear. I mean, maybe one day down the road we can talk about deaths in video games that maybe affected us emotionally and things like that. So Fish can cry about Ares again or Aerith or whatever all over again. But the kind of death that we're talking about today is more about the nuts and bolts of gameplay. I mean, games like Celeste, that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, you're going to die over and over and over again. Games that were popularized in the past, like Super Meat Boy. It's designed around the fact you're going to die over and over and over again. I posted a video on Instagram of I finished Cuphead on Expert and I died 1,500 times playing Cuphead. It's just, the death is just a part of the cycle of that game. And that got us thinking about interesting ways that games use death as a mechanic and kind of a launching point from there. So I think this should be a really fun topic. And I know I posted about this on the Instagram as well. I know it was kind of a difficult one for people to jump in on because it's like, where are we going to go with this? It's a bit strange. But I think when we're done, it'll kind of seem a lot more clear. So that should be a lot of fun. But anyways, my sort of, I guess, opening thought here when we're talking about death, and I know we were inspired by games like Cuphead and Meat Boy and Celeste and stuff like that, is the first thing I ever noticed when I played a game like this, it would have probably been Meat Boy, because I think Super Meat Boy is my first introduction to games where you die hundreds and hundreds of times, and just how quickly it was to just start over, which I think is vital to a lot of these more modern games like this. Because if you're going to die a lot, you don't want a long load screen, you don't want a big pause. And I remember just that feeling of like, you almost stop thinking of yourself as dying in Meat Boy. It's just splat, 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 splat. It was almost comical. And then when you finish the level, you'd see all of your like hundreds of meat deaths jumping around and doing the level after you. So their approach to it was just very lighthearted and silly. I was like, that was the first time it really struck me. And we played Limbo a little bit later on as well, and we argued about that. And Limbo was another one that stuck out to me because you were going to die a lot in Limbo, and they had designed all these really sort of almost comical, morbid ways for that poor Limbo boy to die. But, it was understood that you were going to die a lot playing that game as well. And that's when it started to kind of float into the consciousness. So I wanted to go around with you guys as a launching point to see where like you first started connecting with it as well, or maybe however you'd want to start this off. I'll throw it to you first, Josh. Whenever we started bringing up this topic, how were you thinking about it, or where did you first start, noticing it?
Ooh, I mean, that's hard. I mean, I was into like roguelikes before, and those you don't die as much, but the point of those is kind of to die.
Yeah.
Just to go through and see it more, and that's kind of probably the first time I really started to, thinking about death as its own mechanic instead of just, what happens in games. Because they were, using it in an interesting way.
Can you expand on that? Like for me and other people, I'm not really super familiar with roguelikes, so I don't 100% know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Roguelikes are like a procedurally